I wanted to come to the floor tonight just to talk briefly about where we are in immigration reform. We're moving along this week. We've come out of several weeks of committee work on this, where there were a number of Republican amendments that were adopted as part of the process, a number of Democratic amendments adopted as part of the process. As somebody that was in the negotiating group that led to the bill reaching the Judiciary Committee, I actually think it was improved by both Republicans and Democrats, and it's been an unusual bipartisan effort around here, and it's the kind of effort that the American people, and certainly the people of Colorado, think is long, long overdue. They don't understand why we seem to be engaged in these fights that don't have anything to do with them, instead of working together constructively to actually meet the challenges that this country faces. And I think when it comes to this very difficult issue of immigration, and it is difficult, and there's strong feelings about it, it's been remarkable for that reason that we've been able to see what I would describe not even as a bipartisan process, but a nonpartisan process of people actually coming together to try to resolve this issue. And as a result of that, the objections to it, the substantive objections to it, are falling away. You know, there was an objection that somehow the bill was being rushed through. Well, no, it went through the regular order. Very rare for this place. It shouldn't be rare, but it is rare. They got a full hearing in the Judiciary Committees, a full hearing on the Senate floor. There was an argument that somehow it was going to create horrible deficits. And it turns out the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office said actually in the first 10 years, it's going to improve our deficit situation by $190 billion, and over the next 10 years by another $700 billion, almost $1 trillion over the course of the next 20 years. Then there was another argument, which was there isn't border security as part of this legislation. And in the group of 8, we listened very hard to what the border senators, John McCain and Jeff Flake, 2 Republicans from Arizona, had to say about what they believed they needed at the border. We went and visited the border with John McCain and Jeff Flake to see what they felt they needed on the Arizona border. But there were other senators that weren't satisfied by what we put in that bill. And there was an effort that was then led by Senator Corker from Tennessee and Senator Hoeven to amend this bill. And we supported it. I supported that amendment. In fact, it got 68 votes the other night, or something like that. We were missing a couple of senators. It would have had 68 or 69 if everybody had been here. And that's progress, because that's built support for the bill. Republicans and Democrats coming together around the border security issue. I think it's very, very hard for anybody to make a real argument that this is not a significant attempt to strengthen the border in this country. We're already spending more money on border enforcement than we do on any other federal law enforcement combined. As it was, we had gone to about 22,000 Border Patrol agents already as it was. Now we are doubling that number, doubling it, as an attempt to respond to a very reasonable concern that the American people have, that the border should be as secure as possible. And that's now part of this legislation. So those are 3 things that people have argued. The process is too fast. The bill is going to negatively affect the deficit, and our border is insecure. Those are the arguments that they've made. Now, we don't hear those arguments so much anymore. Now we hear scare stories about health care. I know that I see the majority leaders on the floor. Mr. President, we're now hearing scare stories about health care. We're hearing scare stories about how this will affect our economy, even though the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has said we're going to see 5 additional points of gross domestic product growth, GDP growth, in the second 10 years of this bill passing as a result of bringing people out of the shadows. It is not as if the 11 million people that are here, that are undocumented, are not working. They are working. Many of them are working in this country. Many of them are working in the agriculture sector in my state and in this country. Many are working in other industries as well, all across the United States of America, but they're working in an unlawful way. They're working in a cash economy. They're working in a situation where they are easily exploited, and because of that, they drag down the wages of everybody in America. Because workers in my state that are here that are legal, L-E-G-A-L, are having to compete in a marketplace where there are people that can pay less because we know that there are people that have to take less because they don't have a lawful recourse. All the protections that we put in this bill, all the protections to make sure, rightfully so, that American is offered a job first, to assure, rightfully so, that we're not bringing in a whole bunch of new people when they're Americans looking for work. All of those protections pale in comparison to the protection of bringing 11 million people out of the shadows and out of a cash economy and into a place where they're paid a lawful wage and they're paying their taxes to the United States government. If all you cared about, if the only thing you cared about when you got up in the morning and when you went to bed at night was rising wages for Americans, solving this issue finally for the 11 million would be the most important thing you could do. And we do that in this bill. And the opponents of this bill, who are not seriously suggesting that they're going to go to the expense of sending 11 million people back to where they came from, who are not seriously suggesting an answer to this issue, are coming to this floor somehow saying that nothing in the CBO report is true, that none of it makes sense, that this is about Obamacare, when what we're really trying to do for once in this place is solve a set of challenging issues in a bipartisan way. And Mr. President, even more than that, for a decade or more, because of our broken immigration system, the policy of this country has been to turn back talented people. Even people educated in our universities, even people educated to be engineers and mathematicians, when they've graduated from college here at our expense, in many cases, we've said to them, not stay here, not build your business here, not compete here, not help us grow this economy and start a business. Like half of the Fortune 100 or 500 companies have been started by immigrants, not start a business. We've said, go home. Go home to India and compete with us from there. Go home to China and hire other people over there. If we pass this bill, we will say once again that this nation of immigrants is open for business, that we're open to the most creative people and talented people in the world, that we want them to drive our economy in the United States just as they have generation after generation going back to the founders. It is a great testament to who we are and to the nature of our country that people want to come here. And under the right circumstances, we should have them here. And the CBO report makes it very clear. Makes very clear, I don't even care about the CBO report, but what it makes clear is what business people in my state know. It makes it clear to the agriculture industry in my state, the high-tech industry in my state, the ski resorts in my state. I see the majority leader is rising, but so let me just say this, Mr. President. I believe that the objections of people of goodwill on this bill have been met through compromise, through principled agreement. It's a good piece of legislation. We shouldn't, in this 9th or 11th hour or whatever it is, 9th inning, allow ourselves to get distracted by the politics that are seeking to divide us in this chamber or in this country. and I don't believe we will. So I urge my colleagues to support the passage of this bill, and with that, I will yield the floor.